Hello everyone. This is an overview of Module 3, Part 1, Chapter 14. I will speak on Chapter 14. I will speak on Chapter 17 regarding safe medication use in another lecture. Please, as I go through the PowerPoints, I will only pull out the ones that I feel that are significant for your upcoming exam, as I did with prior ones. Remember, all of the information is in the chapter, but PowerPoints actually outlines the chapter. So please read the PowerPoints that were presented for you in the modules that's posted in Canvas, as I will touch on highlights. Let's look at these bullet points. By the end of this module, the student will define and describe interventions to promote personal safety for the community-dwelling adult. Define and describe the interventions to promote environmental safety for the community and dwelling older adult. Now, as we talk about safety, let's look at a general rule. Older adults face hazards as any other person. Risks are compounded by age-related factors, reducing their capacity to protect themselves, increased vulnerability. Nursing assessment includes a review of risk to safety, interventions necessary to address the threats to safety, life, well-being. As you review this slide and each of the bullet points, I would like to add that also look at the adverse reactions from medications. They also provide a risk to safety. The reason I'm saying that is because patients can have an adverse reaction, like they can become dizzy or drowsy. And with that being said, they are at risk for falls. Also, as you look at this highlight here, accidents rank 6th leading cause of death, falls leading cause of injury-related death, and also don't forget about pneumonia and influenza. They're the 4th leading cause of death, and pneumonia, believe it or not, is the leading cause of infections related to deaths. We have now implemented in the hospital patients that are 65 and older a pneumonia risk scale. So we are following these patients who are diagnosed with pneumonia, following them throughout the hospital stay and at home and follow-up to help decrease the mortality rate for patients who have pneumonia. As we continue on, I want you to know about the microenvironment, which is immediate surroundings, things that we can help with. And we also have the macro environment, like the larger world or groups of people or maybe populations. Also like the weather, the traffic, that's larger. So when we're talking about the older adult in this particular module, we're going to focus more on the micro environment, things that we can do, the older adult can do to help with their immediate surroundings. Also, as we think about the environmental influences and factors, let's go down to this particular bullet point. Promote continued development, stimulation, satisfaction, enhancing psychological well-being. Think about the older adult environment and what stimulates them. What's making them happy in that environment? Try to make, especially in long-term or skilled nursing facilities, try to make their environment somewhat like their home. The lighting, the color, the furniture, the temperature, all these things are important when we're trying to influence that environment for the patient or the older or adult. When we're also looking at the environment, try looking at page 181. It has, I believe it's table 14-1. It's an environmental assessment check list. So that will help you determine your patient's environment and how safe they are. Let's make sure when we talk about safety, we're looking at the lighting, how important the lighting is. is. You see here down below where we have the function, orientation, and mood behavior. Think of function as, how can we get this person more active? Will we keep them in a dark room all day? And then they're feeling like, oh, I'm sleepy, or I don't feel like doing anything. Or in the morning, do we turn on a light, make the room bright, since they're not outside, make it bright so they can be like, oh, okay, I'm awake. I need to be active today. And what about the orientation? So the light should not be constant. Like some people may have the bright light on all day. We don't want that on all day. We want it maybe bright light in the morning, towards the evening kind of dim it, and night maybe darker, to help them as if they were at home and they can see the lighting change during the day if they looked outside. Know that your mood and your behavior, it changes with your different lighting. And if you look on page 182, you can also see how important that is and see the different lighting changes. As we look at this slide, I want to just point out something very important, that the decrease in natural insulation, the older adult, they are sensitive to lower temperatures. Lower temperatures meaning possible hypothermia. We definitely don't want that to happen with our patients. Also remember, I know it doesn't touch on it a lot, but the water temperature. The water temperature should be less than 110 degrees Fahrenheit. You will also find that on page 181 in box 14-2. So if the room temperature is lower than 70, remember, it can make that patient hypothermic, and we definitely don't want another medical problem coming about. This slide is important as the colors. Look at the various colors and how they do, the color schemes, and how they affect the body. I'm not asking you to remember these, but I just want you to be aware of all the different color schemes that could be brought about in an older adult's room and how it will affect their body and their mood. Different smells are therapeutic also. It depends on the facility if we're able to use the different scents that help relaxes the older adult. So I know that essential oils are on the rise. They can be put in baths or also rubbed into the skin as a massage or put in a diffuser. So some of these things are coming about, but we do have to make sure that we get the approval from the facility. As you look at here, for even the elderly need their space. I need my space. Respect them. You know, when I was speaking earlier about remember safety and communication, add on privacy, because privacy space and personal space, because this may be the only thing or one of the few things that the older adult can exercise, that they have control over. That's my cabinet. Those are my belongings in that cabinet. Please don't touch those. Don't share that with anyone else. This is the only thing, or one of the few things that they do or want to keep some type of control of. As you read this slide and look at the different percentages and the mobility and the mobility aids that are used to assist and medications, I wanted to just reinforce that falls are the leading cause of fatal and non-fatal injuries in the older population. Make sure when we do our assessment that we're really doing a fall history. Asking the patient, have you fallen within the past week or the past month or even the past 3 months? We need to know if this older adult is at risk for falls or not. Look at page 190. I don't believe I have it on the slides prior, but please look at page 190 so you can understand why we are using less restraints on our older adults, also on our patient population as a whole. As you read this slide and the bullet points, I would just like to recap on some things that I want to highlight on. I spoke earlier about lighting. Remember, even like the smallest, like a light that's in the bathroom, or the small little night lights. Those are important because it helps the area to remain lit, and it also promotes safety. Also, let's not forget about safety. I know we speak a lot of indoors, but let's not forget about safety outdoors. We all like being outside in the summertime, and sometimes we might let the time get away with us. With that being said, sometimes the older adult, they let the lack of maybe their perception of thirst outside so long get away with them. So things can happen with that. So with the lack of thirst perception, they're out there so long in the sun and more than likely not drinking enough fluids, and they'll have an end result of dehydration. Another safety recap is falling. Sometimes you could, probably with your assessment, figure out if this patient has fear of falling. If they say, oh no, I don't want to take any more medication at night, that's going to make me go to the bathroom, or it's going to make me dizzy, because they have that fear of falling. This also occurs with patients who may have some vision problems at night. So a lot of times patients try their best to call it a night around 6 or 7, so they don't have to get up in the middle of the night to try and walk to the bathroom because maybe they can't see well, or maybe they're rushing to go to the bathroom because they have a full bladder. So all these things is because these patients have a fear of falling. As I end, let's end this slide on fall prevention. We don't want patients falling. What do you all suggest? How do senses affect outcomes? How does nutrition and hydration affect outcomes? Our nutrition and hydration, patient can become dizzy. Our senses, hearing, vision, potential risk for fall at night. How does slower responses and reaction affect outcomes? Medication can contribute to that. Patients becoming more slower, dizzy, or drowsy. How does poor judgment affect outcome? Well, they might think that it's okay to get up at this particular time and the walkway was good and they didn't turn on the light and they end up tripping over a cord and they end up falling. So we want to make sure that we focus on fall prevention, safety, communication. Thank you all for listening, and stay tuned for part 2.